This, what would you say, Owen? Owen, you said let's rumble.
Get ready to
Rumble.
rumble.
Let's get ready to rumble. I feel like I need to be. That's what made me think of the basketball games. Is I feel like whenever there's rumbling, there's got to be some type of sports involved too.
I feel like it's kind of like wrestling, isn't it? I don't know if it's called WWE anymore, but yeah, it's like let's get ready.
To rumble. Yeah, for sure.
And need a little bit of a drum roll to go along with that. It's funny. Whenever my husband and I first started dating, we were watching wrestling, and I would try some of the wrestling moves, and he was like, "We just need to stop." He was like, "I'm gonna get hurt."
Yeah, no, for anyone who knows me with in any way, shape, or form quite well, they'll know quite well that I've got a fairly dodgy back. Now I'm far enough into my 30s to have a good enough excuse for that. So my wrestling days are behind me. My career has been retired.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. It's like if you're
Yeah.
using your brain, you probably shouldn't be wrestling. I mean, I
I'll
don't know.
stick
I think that
to I'll stick to
concussions and head
chess.
injuries don't help with that kind of profession. So, all
Well,
right, you
welcome.
should be seeing my screen, yeah?
Yeah, welcome everybody.
Yeah,
We
today
are
is an
live on
exciting happy
Facebook. We are
hour.
live here in Zoom, and we're excited to see everybody.
So everybody should know that the app that we have on today is sporting my favorite colors. So,
Yes, they are on brand for you, for
that's
sure.
right.
It's not
So
pink, it's
thank you.
salmon.
Love it.
So thank you, Appventory, for that. Those of you who are joining, this is part of our AI technology showcase. What we have been doing through the year of 2026 is really pulling in some new apps that you may have not heard of before. And then also talking to some of our apps that you have long-stand relationships with and talking about how are they incorporating AI. Everybody wants to know how can we use it? Is it something that's built into the application so that way it makes it easy to use? Are there steps that we need to take that we need to be aware of? So that is part of today. And it just so happens that App Inventory is an app that we haven't really explored much on Appy Hour, but there's a lot of cool things that are inside
Really cool
here,
things.
both from like a controller point of view and also from an app consulting point of view. So kind
Yeah,
of,
no, I when we first saw Appventory, and it's been over 6 months now, since we first looked at it, we were really excited because it is so different. It's not like anything we've seen, and it's something that I had an app consulting firm for years and years and years, and this was something that would definitely have made a huge difference in that practice. So excited.
Yeah, I think a lot of the formation it feels. I mean, we've only just launched. It doesn't feel like that from my perspective because we've been going for years, but because we're kind of a new product category in the sense that we don't have competitors. So there are competitors that do similar things to what we do. If you're doing it internally on your own business as like a head of technology or equivalent role. But there's no comparison really that can be made for what we do in an advisory, like for accounting firms, bookkeepers, consultants, virtual CFOs, those types of roles where they're doing it on behalf of clients. So it kind of made it a little bit more tricky to find our product market fit. And when you're going up against a competitor, the ads are a bit easier because you can know how to position yourselves. But yeah, that's it feels like it's been a while for me, but it's fairly new to everyone else.
I agree. And it's like you said, there are some solutions out there that have pieces of what you're doing built into it, but you've got a whole slew of tools. So, if as we start to go through here, and yes, we're going to do a demo today. If you go, oh, well, this feels a little bit familiar, just think how much more you can do here. So, really in that space of advisory, that controllership role. So even if you're just working with one client, there's a lot of value in how deep you can go. And then also, like you were saying, Heather, for years you were doing app consulting, and
Mhm.
there's just so many more insights that we could have gained while we were doing so much of that work.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, I won't hold us back. Most of you know my name is Liz Scott, and I get to play with apps all day in the accounting realm. A lot of my friends are accountants because we have similar talk and think. And so, I've specialized my career in technology and how to make the accounting profession better utilizing technology. And Heather, you want to do a brief intro?
Yeah, so I'm Heather Satterley. I am the Director of Education and Media over here at Woodard. We are busy getting ready for Scaling New Heights, which is going to be starting, well, actually, it'll be in full swing a week from today. So, really excited about that. Prior to that, I'm a CPA and I have worked with clients for over 30 years. The last 20 or so was working as an app consultant and helping businesses with the integrations and streamlining their processes.
I love that. It's been fun. And then Owen, you may be new to our crowd here. So do you want to introduce yourself as the co-founder?
Yeah, so a little bit about my background. Most recently, well, it feels like most recently. It's not most recently anymore. 3.5 years ago, I was the head of sales for the EMEA region at Sin7. And I think a lot of my experience at Sin7 was what led me to co-found Appventory. We saw a lot of businesses trying to implement the tool themselves, and if for anyone who knows anything about inventory management, ERP, they're not they're quite complex tools. They're not to be taken lightly. Certainly for anyone who doesn't have experience with implementing them. And we saw so many people fail but when they used our partner network, and there were so many awesome partners globally for Sin7 that sort of did not just implementation of Sin7, but they looked more broadly at the whole sort of app stack that the user was had embedded already within their business. They did a great job of pulling it all together and making the business run efficiently. So we saw sort of front and center the difference that advisors made, and that's really what we didn't start out this organization with the idea of Appventory. That came about a year after we started. The first year was we know we want to advocate for consultants, advisors, people who deliver this type of advisory, and we just want to enable them. We want to create a tool, a framework that helps businesses find those advisors and get the most out of the advisors that they're working with. And yeah, like I said, been here for 3.5 years now and absolutely loving it. A team of around sort of 60-ish, I think, globally now, based all over the world in India, Sri Lanka, Dubai, the US, Australia, UK, even Denmark. Um, so we're pretty widespread and yeah, very excited because it was only this month that we've fully relaunched our website, fully relaunched the product, and introduced a lot in the way of AI agents and AI functionality that I think makes the difference with this type of a product. Just makes it more accessible and easy to use.
That's what we're all looking for. And I will say that yes, just in that 6 month period that we've been connected, there's been a lot of updates. So, as things evolve, that's one of the reasons why I'm an advocate that there's some things that some of you here are going to build yourself, but then there's, reasons why I say don't, because you can't stay up to date on all of the technology changes and all of the releases that are coming out. So, relying on a solution to be able to get things done, in my mind, is definitely the way to go.
I think it's about compliance and data security as well, especially in our industry. I think
Fair.
the way in which data is managed and handled is incredibly important. So, for example, we're GDPR compliant, we're SOC 2 compliant, we're ISO certified. So you can have that assurance that from a security standpoint, when it's your data or your client's data, it's in safe hands, it's stored safely, securely in all of the ways that it should be done. Which sometimes with self-built tools, that's not always the case. It's slightly different thing to manage.
Well, I would say that a lot of people here on the call are going to be curious about the security. So thanks for
Mm-hmm.
sharing that. So we're going to be exploring and in the meantime drinking. So uh, this is a fun drink.
It is
We
a fun
started
drink.
looking. Yeah, it is a fun drink. So we were looking at the martini and and all of the ingredients here. So this, you said this is one of your favorites,
Well,
Owen?
embarrassingly so, yes. It's not, I admittedly, it's not the most masculine of drinks, but I'm not the most masculine of drinkers. I was toying with the idea of, oh, do I put some whiskey in there and, get my cigar out? And that's not me, if I'm honest with you. I like the fruity ones. So, um, yeah, I've actually just got back from a trip to the south of France with my partner, and we went out for a few cocktails, and we tried a few different ones. But I have to say, this is my favorite. It's
Mm.
high in alcohol content, but low on volume, so you're not feeling bloated at the end. It's nice, fresh flavored. It's not too strong in flavor. My cup of tea.
Well, I like it. And anytime
Me
that
too.
you get a little champagne in there, why not?
Well, the way that it's actually served is you've got the drink, and then they have a little shot of champagne that they bring with it, and you're meant to pour.
Ah,
Normally, it's
so it's a
prosecco, but
side,
it's the same
yeah,
thing.
it's a
And you sort of,
sidecar.
yeah, you
That's
pour
really
it in, and
cool.
then go for it.
I
Very,
love
very
that.
cool.
I love it. Well, okay, so I'm gonna keep driving slides, Owen, until you tell me that you're ready to start sharing. So I'm just gonna keep going.
Perfect. Cool. Well, yeah. Quick introduction then to Appventory. I think the whole point of Appventory, as I think I've already touched on, is that we want to help advisors to unlock and have more clarity and certainly be more proactive around the revenue opportunity that sits within their existing client base. Many firms are working with hundreds of different clients, and many of which there's not necessarily that much of an engagement from an advisory capacity, certainly not in the sort of the app space. And I think for some context as well, I've spoken to a lot of advisors over the last 2 or 3 years, and one of the main points of contention that I had around this was that a lot of them don't really want to get too heavy into app advisory. I think this term app advisory can be taken in many different ways. From my perspective, you don't need to be full on implementing NetSuite to be considered an app advisor. I think that's the first
Agreed.
thing to get squared
Agreed.
off. Um, I think, and you don't also have to have like an intimate knowledge of every single tool that's out there to be an app advisor. I think just to have a basic level of understanding of this is the app, this is how much you're spending on it. Is that the appropriate amount? Should you be spending that much? Are you and the team using it and getting benefit from it? Is it a tool that's overlapping with another app? Is there similar apps that do the same sort of job that you don't necessarily need two of them? Is it a tool where you've got a bunch of users that actually are never logging in, but you don't know about it? All of these types of things are insights that advisors can help clients with. Even things like there's been a renewal in the background and the price has been hiked up by 40% from last year, and they're not aware of it. It's auto renewed. Or they can save a ton of money by going from a monthly subscription to an annual subscription because they're committed to the tool. These are all just simple little things, but built together, they can actually be quite significant in terms of cost saving, but also in efficiency gains. And that's not because you're training them, that's not because you're implementing tools. That might be part of your wheelhouse, and if so, great, but it's not exclusively built for that type of advisor.
That makes perfect sense. And I'll share what happened with Appy Hour today. We had a solution that we've been using for years, and it went from $46 a month to what was it, Heather? Was it 300?
Over $300 a month. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that just happened to us today. And it wasn't until after we had already been charged that we were became aware of it. There's no way for us to get a refund. That's already been something we've explored. So, it's just a matter of do we switch gears? What do we do? But if we had that information ahead of time, we would have made a different
Right. A
decision.
different decision. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And extrapolate that tenfold, you know,
Hmm.
I think this is segues nicely into this slide in terms of the problem. There, and again, I've spoken to not just businesses, but a lot of advisors, because funnily enough, a lot of the firms that are out there suffer with a lot of these problems, maybe even more so than some of their clients, especially if they're scaling, they're going through mergers and acquisitions. It's a big problem. Just to run through these quickly, um, when I go to the events, so we're going to ZeroCon in the UK in the next month. We're going to QuickBooks Connect. We're going to Scaling New Heights next week as well. When I'm at the events, I always like to ask people, like, do you have like confidence in what apps you're actually using and what your total expenditure is? Like, tell me how many apps that you've got. Um, and then we plug them into the stand, plug them into the app whilst they're on the stand, and every single time it always shows something that they weren't aware of. there's always, literally never watched someone connect to Appventory and uncover something, unless they're maybe a very small business, like a solo business that intimately know their app stack. You know, businesses with 10 employees or more, where there's maybe some departments and stuff, there's always something found, always. Um, and so that's the first point of Appventory, is to discover what's actually there and what you're actually paying. That's the basis of any project, anything. It's always that discovery step. And that's done within a couple of minutes. And that's done through the way in which we do it. The mechanism that we use is we integrate into the accounting ledger. So that'd be Xero, QuickBooks, whatever it might be. We integrate directly into that, pull the transaction data. So you just basically, it's a really simple set of process. We'll maybe go through that in the call, but you go through, authorize the connection, select the from the chart of accounts the nominals in which you want to connect, pulls the transaction data through, and then the AI agent in the background then maps those transactions to an app. And once they're
Mm.
connected, we can also use the renewals AI agent to auto detect what the renewal date is as well. So then you've got that basic start point of, these are the apps, this is what I'm spending currently, this is when they're up for renewal. And then you can start to diagnose, then you can start to manage and look at, does anything need fixing? Do we need to look at the number of users that we have on apps? Do we need to send out surveys to evaluate whether or not the users are happy with those apps? All of that sort of fun stuff. But it all comes from knowing what you've got. And then also tying software spend to business outcomes. So understanding, are you getting an ROI from that investment? Is it being used? Is it being used in the right way? Is it valuable? Do the users like it? Um, is everyone in the business aware that we even have it? Because sometimes, and this is something I come across as well, you know, I've had situations myself where the marketing team have gone out and they've bought a tool that would have been really useful for sales if I had known about it. I've then gone out and procured a separate tool, not knowing that it was there.
Mm.
And then we've all of a sudden, and it can be run for years before anyone's even made aware. And we're a relatively modest sized organization compared to some of the businesses we work with. Um, so definitely tying software spend to genuine outcomes is important. I've touched on renewals and licenses not being actively tracked. So understanding if you move someone out of the business, for the core things like, you know, Google or Microsoft and, you know, the big ticket software tools, often that's managed pretty well by businesses in terms of turning that off and restricting the access. But if that is a department leader or someone within a team that procured a tool themselves, that could run for months before anyone is even aware. Or it could be that you haven't offboarded them because you don't necessarily have a really structured process around that. It's sort of done ad hoc. And you can end up paying for people who have left the business and it's just sort of shadow in the background. Um, and then renewals, that we've touched a little bit on renewals. So I don't think I need to talk on that too much. That's a fairly obvious point. And I think the final, you know, clients want their advisors to support them. I think a lot of the advisory work that is done, in what I've seen at least, it tends to be quite reactive. So when a client knows and understands there's a problem, they will reach out to their trusted advisor, which is often the accountant or the advisor that they're working with already, because they trust them. There's that relationship there. Um, I think the missed opportunity here where Appventory can help is actually making people problem aware. So many people are not problem aware. They're just running these apps and just accepting that that's the way that it has to be. With Appventory, you can maybe show them a different way, and then I'm going to show you some really cool stuff within the demonstration that leads into this. But being able to highlight it in such a way where they get excited about the problem in terms of solving it, and take you with them, and that's where the advisory opportunity comes for and the revenue generating opportunity comes for the advisors that we work with, because they're not just helping their clients, but they're earning money in the process of doing that.
You know, I'll advance this to this next one, but I will say one of the things that ha can happen very quickly, and Heather and I with Appy Hour, it again, it too is it's also a small operation, but we have a pretty tight tech stack. But whenever you talk about, you said that whenever you connect, it's pretty quick, and we experienced that ourselves. So we were able to see very quickly what solutions we had connected. We were a bit surprised that there was a little bit of overlap. And when you're
Mhm.
talking about the advisory piece, what came to mind is it doesn't take very many subscriptions for this solution to pay for itself, one. And then the other part of it is in that advisory space, being proactive, it allows you to oftentimes save at least hundreds, if not thousands of dollars very quickly, which helps to um, seal your relationship with the client in that advisory space.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll openly claim this right now on the call. The subscription, if you, especially if you're using it internally, which I recommend anyone does, really, just as a good process to manage things. If you don't make your money back on Appventory in the savings through the software subscriptions in your first year, I'll give you a full refund. You can have it for free. That's how confident I am that Appventory will pay for itself. It's not just a gimmicky sort of marketing thing. It's genuinely it will. You'll uncover opportunities to make those savings and probably and often far exceed what you'd be spending on a tool like Appventory. And
And
then
that makes
obviously the
sense because
safety
it doesn't
side.
take very much for you to discover that you've got duplicate solutions that you
Yeah,
don't need.
yeah,
Hmm.
Right.
absolutely. So this is what a lot of people I think maybe came on the call for is the AI agents, and there's four I think four key AI agents. There are a couple of other bits, but there's four key AI agents that we have working in the background, analyzing the data. So once the data is imported, the first one, which we've touched on a little bit, is the discovery agent, which surfaces all of the SaaS spend from through the transactions, maps all of the apps to the respective apps within Appventory, and tracks the users and costs associated with that. And then from a client perspective, it runs silently. So as an advisor, especially if you're an accountant and you're managing the Zero for that particular client, you can just go into Zero and bulk add clients. Let's say you're working with 50 clients. You can just bulk add all of those clients into Appventory in one swoop, and it'll do all of that work automatically on all 50 of them. So it's literally like 10 minutes work to add all of your clients, and then it's there, it's done. And you don't have to go through like an onboarding process or like an education process or anything like that. It's no different to any other reporting tool that you're running in the background. It's there to analyze client data and help you become the best advisor that you possibly can be to them in terms of giving them insights. So that's the first piece, is the discovery agent. The second piece is the intelligence agent. So this is where it starts to look at the opportunities, flagging things like duplicates and overlapping tools, analyzing the utilization of the products. So we actually also integrate with Google, Microsoft, Okta, the identity provider, and that helps us automatically bring in all of the users within the organization, and also track the how they use the products, how much time, whether they're logging into the products, how much time they're spending on the products when they're logging in. And that can be, again, rolled out automatically by an admin. So you don't have to go through every user within the business and get them to sign it off and put it on, and nothing like that. It's a one click install on the extension, and then you've got tracking on all of that. And then it starts to give you insights once you've got that tracking around, yeah, is it being used? Who's not used it? Do we have redundant licenses? Are there training opportunities, etc., etc.? Then we want to benchmark it against similar firms. So this is important, right? So if I'm a 10 million turnover business in the e-commerce industry, I want to know what my competitors in a similar size, similar space are using from a tool set perspective, point one. And then if they're using the same tool, how does their subscription compare to mine? Am I paying more than them for a lesser
Mm.
license? And I think that gives you confidence that you're in the right place, especially with some of the software tools. Some of them have standardized pricing, but some of them it's a bit more around negotiation and special offers and all of that sort of fun stuff. Um, some businesses are better at negotiating than others. That's the reality of it. So I think being able to benchmark that data is incredibly important, and understand where you sit within that hierarchy of good deal or bad deal, and then service the
100%, because
savings.
businesses are
Right.
competitive. I mean, we're all after the same market. So if you can do, anything to have a cutting edge, you should.
Absolutely, yeah. And then surfacing savings before the client asks for them, right? So little things like I said the example earlier on. A really simple example would be you're paying on a monthly subscription. You'd save a ton of money on annual. Do you intend to stay with this tool? If yes, then really let's move you to this, and we can save a lot of money. That's just a simple example. The third piece is the advisory agent. So we can generate automatically reports, and I really like this. I will show you with this within the demonstration. The reports are really clean, shareable documents that are completely branded, that give the customer a bit of a teaser as to what's going on. It highlights some of the revenue opportunities. It highlights what they're using. It highlights what their renewals are coming up. It highlights where they're compliant and not compliant in terms of their usage of applications. and then gives you a little summary at the end where you can put in your recommendation. So it's a nice teaser that leans into then delivering actual advisory work as a follow-on. Some of the firms that we're working with will do that as a 1 hour consultation, go through the document, and that would be it. That would be the work that they're delivering, and then it's for the client to take away. Others maybe want to dip their toe a little bit into maybe some implementation or some guided advisory around what tools they should or shouldn't be using, and that might be a more extended piece of advisory that gives them more chargeable hours of work. Um, or in some cases, they don't charge by the hour. I know that's probably something that's becoming still popular, but becoming less popular, especially in this advisory space where you can charge by project, not by the traditional sort of hourly charge piece. Um, and that just gives you, talking points for the clients, data leading into billable revenue opportunities. Um, and then the renewal agent, I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I think I've spoken about the renewal component already, but it automatically identifies the renewal dates. And yeah, just helps the advisor become more proactive around when is the right time to approach if they're wanting to do some advisory or deliver some work on that.
Yeah, spend conscious. So it makes
Mhm.
sense.
Cool. So yeah, on the report side, there are a few different types of reports depending on what you've got integrated and how you're engaging with the client. If you're just integrating their accounting tool, which is absolutely fine, we have financial reports, which focuses more on the financial component rather than getting into the usage and whether or not it's being used and all of that sort of analytical side. And then we've got the comprehensive and the system reviews sort of sides. It's really catered towards the three tiers as we see it of advisors, whereby at the top of the hierarchy, you've got the more sort of financial advisors where they want to speak more about the financial component of the applications they're using. Because let's not forget, software spend in most businesses now is the second biggest expense within the organization. The last 5 years, it's been a crazy change. The amount of applications that are now available, the price increases for those applications as well. It's no surprise that it's the second biggest spend for most businesses. So it makes it more important that we can give that the attention that it deserves. And then the comprehensive and systems review are more around leading on to delivering implementation and advisory services beyond sort of the financial component. But we'll have a look at some of those, which I think are really important, just to give you that. I call it the ruin motion. You want to go into the business that you're wanting to deliver advisory to and show them what's wrong, show them the problem, be really clear about that, but also show them a pathway to fix it. And that the report does that really nicely.
Nice.
And I talked about Appventory. The whole purpose of Appventory is to have more clients working with more advisors on these types of projects and delivering more billable hours for the firms that we work with. We don't necessarily feel like, I mean, most firms who use Appventory, they're not starting a new service line. It's not this whole new thing that they have to interrupt their entire business with and put loads of resource into. The beauty about Appventory is it fits quite nicely within existing business lines that are already being offered. It just embellishes them. It just makes them better and delivers more value to the client as an output, and might then deliver more billable hours as an off charge from that as well. So here are a few examples. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on all of the different types of services within an accounting firm, but I think it's worth pointing out that we want Appventory to supplement what you're already doing in a lot of cases, not necessarily ask you to become some implementer of NetSuite and a whole new service line. That's not reality. It's not feasible for a lot of organizations to do that. And we also understand with the amount of applications that are out there, you can't be an expert in everything. So I think
Yeah.
let's deliver value universally, all of us, in the ways that we can. And the starting point that every firm that we work with can do is talk about the financials, talk about are they spending money in the right way.
I feel like uh, from two different perspectives, two different hats that I wear. From the perspective of a app advisor, I want to be able to have clarity on what has been spent, what should be spent, who's using it. So I feel like I have conversations that I can have with my client there. Absolutely, this is the right solution to explore that concept. The other area is like you said, you're not trying to add on a whole different service, but at the same time, for those firms who are in that space of offering any type of advisory, and if you are a firm that's right now just doing straight compliance work, but you're hearing this change of The month end close is going to be automated, projected by the end of this year. So what does that mean for the firm? Moving over into advisory types of roles. It doesn't have to be that you do app advisory. This still is financial advisory.
It is
So
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, Heather, I feel like there's a space here for it.
Definitely. I mean, we're constantly looking for ways to up the value of what we're bringing, and this is a place where I really, my team leaned in my firm was keeping track of this and pointing to the dollars we were saving the client and the wealth generation that we were bringing to the client. So this does fit in to a lot of different places, not just the app, consulting, but the controllership, and the fractional CFO work.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. And you don't have to be the expert in this area to be able to understand the dollar saved. I think about
Hmm.
that commercial that's on TV, and it's been on TV for years, and it's like, how many apps do you think that you have? And somebody will answer, and then they go, okay, well, let's connect, and then they find out, oh my gosh, I've got so many additional apps. We know that our clients are using those types of apps, so this is built for business.
Hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is a lot of the firms that I speak with are doing some kind of on charging. Now, that's not always to make a margin. So a zero is a good example of that, where or I think you can do the same with QuickBooks and Dext, and there's many tools that do it, whereby as a firm you can buy them in bulk and get quite significant discounts, and then some firms choose to offer that out to their clients as a value add, in that they're not making money on that subscription necessarily. Um, they're sort of just offering it as part of their service. Others do actually want to track and make a margin on that. It's a revenue opportunity and a revenue line, and sometimes quite a good one. It's sometimes quite difficult to track. And one of the functions that we built within Appventory, which we'll get into a little bit, is the app on charge functionality, whereby you can
Hmm.
actually understand from your spend how much of that is allocated to clients, which clients is it allocated to. You can even generate invoices and synchronize all of that with the accounting ledger as well, and actually send those invoices out, mark them as paid. All of that can be done within Appventory. Um,
Wow.
and I think the key here is a lot of firms will deliver these on charging pieces, or they'll take out subscriptions on behalf of their client. If they then offboard a client, especially if they're doing high volumes, um, they don't always actually repurpose that license. And for many, many months, they'll be paying for a subscription for someone who's long since left.
Right.
And there's not
Yeah.
great mechanisms in place for a lot of organizations to actually manage that. I've not come across, certainly with the larger firms, this seems to be a really, really big problem. Like I've had firms speak to me on the larger side that will take out a subscription for Appventory just for that, because
Hmm.
it pays for itself in that sense. So I
Right.
think that there's some of the other pieces that, it's not all about, app implementation, app advisory. If you're doing that, great. Yeah, Appventory can definitely help, and that's a big part of Appventory. But there's a whole other side to Appventory that's not just designed for that systems implementer, those hardcore app advisors and digital disruptors that are out there. It's very much for the for the rest of us, really, the 95% of us that are the rest of us, where we're sort of just wanting to support clients and give them value add services that are
Hmm.
advisory focused on helping them become efficient, helping them do a better job with their business.
Makes sense.
So yeah, why accounting firms choose Appventory? Crikey. I mean, there's probably one of the biggest reasons most accounting firms use Appventory is because there isn't another tool out there like it. If they're wanting to deliver extra value to their clients, and to your point, with the way that things are changing in the world, with the introduction of AI and some of the legislative changes that are happening out there, I think a lot of firms are looking to sort of diversify their services and add more value in different areas where traditionally they didn't already. Um, and Appventory is a great segue into doing more in that space and exploring that for relatively little expense. We'll go through maybe pricing if we've got time at the end, but it's not like you've got this great big four-figure or even three-figure in some cases subscription for Appventory. It's a modest amount for what you get access to, and it enables you then to have confidence in delivering those types of services, especially if this is something that you're stepping into for the first time, and you want sort of a tool that sits behind you that supports you and gives you structure in offering those types of advisory services. It gives you confidence that the value we're adding for clients is genuine, and it's
Hmm.
quite time efficient as well. You don't want to be spending 4 or 5 hours doing a bunch of discovery, loads of different back and forth phone calls. What are you using? Oh, you missed something out. Oh, what's your subscription? Let me go through your transactions. And the time that's spent on that for 2 minutes of plugging them into Appventory, you've got a report that's already really nice and tidy. And the brand of Appventory behind you to support you in making sure you've got confidence that it's compliant from a security perspective. The data's accurate because it's been tested and tested rigorously over the last couple of years. I think that's a pretty wise investment.
I like the idea of the structure because I do think that whenever you're in this space, the more that you can deliver to your client, the more that you can have expectations internally, externally, the better the outcome's going to be.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So this is the last slide. I hope I have not killed anyone death by PowerPoint or anything like that, but I probably spent a little bit longer on that than I wanted to. But we'll get into the demonstration now. And these are
Wonderful.
just some of the key areas that I'll touch on during the demonstration. I don't need to go through 'em. I've not really solidly prepared this, so I'm gonna wing it a little bit. But I do demo this product every single day, so hopefully I won't get too lost.
We love the live demo. So, are you empowered to be able to share screen?
Yes, I think
Okay,
so. So replace the current share, is that right?
absolutely.
Awesome. So you'll have to excuse all of my tabs because I'm going to be using two different accounts. So I want to
Okay.
share my entire screen. Here we go. And it's not that one I want to be on. We'll start with this. So this is Appventory. Now I don't mind sharing with you. This is our internal Appventory account. So this is actually something, we drink our own champagne. And this is something that we use internally to manage our own applications and how we manage things. This is the dashboard that we're looking at right now. So this, as I highlighted before, there's the business side, which is the internal use case. And if you're an advisor, you'll also have the advisory practice side up at the top that helps you manage these things on your clients. I wanted to start with how we use it internally to begin with, because it's pretty straightforward on the integration section just to get integrated. We've got a bunch of identity providers, as I highlighted before, that will pull in all of your users. So on our organization section, which is where you pull in, you integrate with, in our case, Google. We've pulled through all of the users that we've had, both past and present, and you'll be able to see whether they're past or present on the status, the department they're in, how many apps they're using. You can add in their job title and department optionally as an add-on if you want to. But it gives you the basis of here's all of my users and here are the apps that they're using. That's how the um, Google integration, the Microsoft integration, and the Okta integration works. And then we also have this
Mhm.
extension that you can roll out within the organization that then starts to track the usage side, which we'll touch on in a moment.
Which I think is fascinating. I mean, just being able to track the users and what they're doing, as far as the apps they're using, I think is helpful.
Yeah, you can even view into details and see in detail what apps they're using. You can see what activities they've got. You can have a bit of a summary on the right-hand side. So this isn't necessarily where you'd spend a lot of time, but it's a nice way. If I'm, for example, if Ishan decides to move to a different company and moves on from Appventory, we can very clearly see what tools that he's been using and make sure that we're processing him and his offboarding in the correct way. And that's a really simple function, but something that's quite practically useful. Um, the other integration is the accounting ledger integration, which is really straightforward. When you go to connect them, all you need to do is authorize the connection to give us permission to go and fetch the data, and then you tell us what data we can go fetch. So bring up all of your chart of accounts, and you can then just select the nominals where software spend is allocated from your perspective. We'll put all of that data in, and the first thing you'll see in the all apps section is all of the apps mapped up automatically, all of your spend associated with that, what the subscription is. As you can see, it's now starting to tag the users that are associated with that app. And we've got some nice sort of dashboard information around the renewal date, etc. as well. That's again auto-populated by the AI agent. And then if I go and view the details on HubSpot, I can now see all of my transactional data around what I'm spending on it, how it sits within my budget allocation, if you are managing budgets within Appventory, which you can do. And it also gives me some compliance status as to whether it's compliant or not with the key compliance tools that are out there. And then I can even go into things like users and understand who is using this tool, and this is the cool bit, I can go into the login activity and actually track who's logging in, how many logins have they had, when did they last log in, when they did log in, how much time did they spend on the application, and who's spending the most average time per day on the application. And this is, for me, something that is a great signal as to whether or not a user is required. I can see on our HubSpot instance that we've got 31 users, 15 haven't even logged in. Now, that's a
Yeah.
pretty big opportunity for us to reduce our licenses. Now, there might be an explanation for that. They might be on a free license, and that's completely fine and justified if that's the case. But if they're on a paid license, that's something very, very different, and that looks to be need to be looked at very, very closely. So that's a little bit on the apps. That's the discovery piece. And you can do the same with your advisory clients as well. If I skip across to my other account here and we go into the advisory client section, I've connected just a few very basic clients to this particular account. And you can see here, Bob Inc. I've imported some transactions for them. I've got some renewals. I can see what renewals are coming up for their transactions. I can see what their top spend apps are. They're categorized for me. And then I can start to unlock where are the opportunities. So I can see that there's a cost saving opportunity here. The cost per user is excessively high for Sin7 in this case, which means I don't know whether I need it anymore. And actually, if I go into my renewal section, I can see all of the renewals and when they're up for renewal, whether there's any problems, and you can see there's needs attention. So I can actually analyze that using AI, and it'll analyze the costs. It'll detect whether or not there's any duplicate applications or overlapping apps that are out there. And then it will give me a recommendation as to what it thinks I should do. So it's already identified that Katana is an alternative out there. It can see what my current spend is and the estimated optimized spend would be of the collective tools. And then it gives me a recommendation of what they think we should do next. And then you can send that and share that with your client. Obviously, you can then put it in your own words and you can change the recommendation as you see fit. But it's flagging the opportunities. And this is just a really simple one because I've only imported this data by CSV for demo purposes in this particular account. But it's trying to represent how you can find these opportunities with your clients. And probably the simplest way to do that is within the advisory overview, where we've got this AI-powered cost savings overview, and it tracks four key areas across all of your advisory clients. And it basically wants to identify where you've got overlapping apps, where you've got offboarding inefficiencies, where you've got problematic apps whereby, for example, it's not compliant with the tools that are out there that it should be, or there's been a big spend increase year on year, or there's been a significant change in terms of the cost per user and it's excessively high, certainly compared to other similar tools that are out there. And and then also upcoming renewals. And if the upcoming renewal is very close, then it's a key moment in the lifespan of that particular product, especially if there's any problems identified with it, where you should be engaging with the client and supporting them through that, especially if they're completely unaware of any of this. Because you've got these lovely dashboards and all these insights, they've just got their transactions. They're not necessarily aware that all of this is the case. So that's for us, I think, really, really important. And when you want to engage with one of your clients on this, let's say, for example, because you've got your list of all of your connected clients on here, and I want to go into Bob Inc. So I can look specifically at Bob Inc. As an organization, see what they're doing. I can remove all of the noise of everything else and focus and laser in on this particular client. And if I want to, I can then generate reports for this client as well. So the reports, and I'll just hop back in just so you've got live data in the other account. The idea of the reports is to sort of share an insight or an overview that's not going to go into all of these dashboards and reports and into this level of detail, but something that highlights the opportunity without overwhelming. So just to give you a preview of a sample report, which is the simple financial report, it's 11 pages long as a document. The first page is sort of a financial overview of the current situation, what they're spending, any savings that you've realized with them in the past, whether any budgets are going to be going over, what the spend change has been, where the sense what the potential savings are as of today, the spend share of as a total as a total of your as a percentage of your total expense within the organization, forecasted app spend for the next 6 months, upcoming renewals, and average cost per employee per spend on apps. And then
That's
we go
interesting. The
into,
average cost per employee, I think that that's a bit eye-opening. I used to employ a lot of part-time people, and that was one of the things I hadn't expected was, it's like kind of a duh later, but at the time, what I hadn't put into my cost was every single app that we used didn't care if they were part-time or full-time. So the spend cost was the same.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it made us change the way that we decided to hire. So instead of having part-time employees, we went just full-time. And because of the subscription, that was part of the decision there. And the other thing that this is making me think too is the cost savings, being able to show them what you've saved to date. That's a nice piece of information to
It
give
is.
them. So, again, it's like giving them something that they can look at, that they can hold, that they can see is going to help them your clients to understand, there is this big cost in applications. We really try hard to encourage our clients to use expense cards that are for
yeah.
each of the apps. So, like a burner card for each app. And I do that in my own practice, but I still, whenever I'm, evaluating apps, I still get surprised. There's technology that, you sign up for
Right.
and it falls through the
It's so
cracks.
true. It's so true. I was only speaking to a client who I will mention that after this demonstration, they signed up immediately for Appventory. And this was a direct business that had come to us. And they had a similar situation, but they basically had a company card that was shared with all of the managers, and anyone could go out and buy software really as they pleased. There wasn't really much of a procurement process around it, or a sign-off process, or a budget allocation
Mhm.
necessarily. And she was sort of operations and sort of tasked with managing this and getting an understanding and getting control of the situation. Um, and she just came to me and said, "Listen, I don't know what they're buying. I don't know whether it's being used or not. I don't know how many users we've got or whether they're active users or not. I don't know. I have no idea. I have something on spreadsheets, but I know it's not the full picture, and I know it goes
Yeah.
out of date immediately the moment that I finish typing in what I'm typing." So
Mhm.
I showed her how, you plug into Appventory, you plug your accounting tool in, it's going to constantly update. It's not just a one-time thing, it's going to update frequently. It's going to keep you up to date with not just the transactions, but also the user activity. I didn't even really have to go beyond that for her to sign up. Everything else in terms of we have a procurement process within Appventory to make sure that it's not just about fixing the problem right now, but it's also about making sure that problem doesn't resurface next year. It's not like a one-time thing and then you turn everything off. The idea of Appventory is that software is always going to develop and change, and the way that you use it is going to develop and change as time goes on. It's overkill to do it monthly for most businesses, the vast majority of businesses, but it makes sense just to give this some time and attention as an overview annually, really to make sure that you're on track with the way that you're
Absolutely.
using technology, and then as a side note to that, sort of make sure that you're being efficient at the point at which renewals are coming up, and make sure that if you're offboarding, onboarding people, that's taken care of appropriately. If you need to purchase new tools, that those new tools aren't then going to overlap with existing tools, and there's a process around that. All of these things are every month pieces, and then you've got that big piece at the end of the year where you sort of say, how are we doing with software investment within the organization? Are we heading in the right direction? And I will also say that Appventory isn't necessarily just about getting rid of software and removing software and saving money. There are many businesses out there that actually need to increase their investment, and they need to start investing in more tools, not less. So
Mhm.
it's not all one direction where it's all about uh, cost savings and cost cutting. And I know that will be a priority for many businesses. I think what
Mhm.
Appventory offers is the ability to save costs where it makes sense to save costs, and then it's far easier to justify the ask of investing into technology that they really need if we're actually, saving money over here. We can reinvest that money and be more efficient with that money over there. It's a much easier ask as an advisor if you're delivering it in that sort of a way, because it feels like a lot of businesses see procurement of software as a cost center rather than an investment, which I don't think is correct, but that's just the reality of how a lot of businesses work. They see it as a cost. So I think framing that in such a way where it doesn't hurt their back pocket quite as much, just helps you get your job done and helps you deliver for the clients without having to fight such a battle. But I'm segueing massively now. So yeah, just to touch more on the
Okay.
report, there's a bunch of different pages within here. Spend monitoring and control, so what they spent in the last 6 months versus what they're forecasted to spend in the next 6 months on their top apps. The spend on by category within the organization, the most significant problem apps within the business
Mhm.
with a variety of different reasons for that. Candidates for overlapping. A clear example would be they're using Zoom, Google Meet, and Microsoft Teams. You don't need all three. They all do meetings.
Hmm.
Pick one of them, choose a lane, would make my advice. Cost savings, so we can see what the potential savings are and where those savings are coming from. So overlapping apps, 3 subscriptions for past users, 5 flagged apps where there's been a high spend increase over the last 12 months that needs to be looked at. And then 3 apps where we should switch to monthly billing instead of annual, sorry, switch to annual billing instead of monthly and the savings associated with that. And then what's already been saved in the past as highlighted before.
You
Um,
know, if you don't mind looking at page 4, because one of the things that stands out on this page, maybe it was the one up above it. Yeah, here we go. One of the things that stands out is if you are in this app advisory space, each of these overlapping apps, this is a space for you to be able to explore. So, if you've got a client and they're using all of these, well, take some time to discover which one they should be using. So maybe
Right.
that's actually going to be an engagement. Or, you were talking about earlier too, this same type of information is gained if they're using an app that maybe there's a better one in that category.
yeah,
So same thing, you can turn that into an engagement. It's not saying which one of these to choose. There's still a discovery that has to be taking place. What does the client need? What are their wants? What's the workflow? All of those things still apply, but being able to have some apps to narrow it down to is something that Heather and I have spent in our time in our careers, hours of trying to
Yeah.
figure out
Yeah.
which one of the solutions out there should we investigate further.
yeah, exactly. And one of the really cool things when you want to, obviously you're not going to share this necessarily with a client because this is something as an advisor you want to hold close to your chest because this is where you're adding the value. But if I want to go into for example, QuickBooks Online and FreshBooks. Do I need 2 accounting tools? Probably not. Maybe I do. I don't know, but probably not. So I can actually go into this and look at what is my spend across both of those tools. What do those tools actually do? And you can do the same on behalf of clients. This is just something that I'm doing internally on this particular account. But you can do this exactly the same for clients, and then it gives you a recommendation as what to do. And so you can sort of not just have the numbers, but actually understand the cost, the number of users against those applications. What do those applications do? And in some
Mhm.
cases, there's a completely justified reason as to why you would have 2 tools that are in the same category. In fact, in many cases, that might be the case.
Mhm.
But in some cases, especially if there is an objective there to reduce costs, it's something that can be looked at. So that's obviously Appventory isn't replacing advisors. It can't possibly do that. It can't. AI will not replace that human connection, that knowledge across apps, that practical usage of how tools have been implemented, and that background knowledge around they've just been acquired, so they're going to be doing something dodgy over the next 12 months. We don't want to get involved. Not always the case, precursor, but yeah, these are things that sit within an advisor's mind that you can't replicate with AI. And that's why we're really creating this tool to help advisors do what they're already doing, but do it in a way where it's making them more efficient so that they can do it with more clients and generate more revenue as a result of that as well. I think that's really important to note.
And to your point early on, I'm going to say the majority of accountants would use this tool to be able to help with the financial advisory. There's going to be a small subset that is doing client app advisory, and so this would be the solution for that. So the majority of the time, whenever I'm thinking about how much is my client spending for technology, yeah, I can go inside of, whatever accounting solution that they're using and I can see the details there, but you can get so much more granular. And when Heather and I, in fact, Heather was the one who connected it. When Heather connected, it was so quick and
It's so
almost
quick.
instant for us to
Yeah.
see like where that spend was.
But I mean, you're seeing data that you can't get from just looking at the transaction history and your GL. Like you can't see what users are logging in. You can't see quickly the increase in the price from one application, year over year. So it's serving up the data in a way that you can analyze it really quickly and have those conversations with your clients. And that's the real value here. I mean, to do this, get all of this information, be able to be ready to have a conversation would take weeks. It would take weeks of going through every single, logging into every app and looking at the different users, and then, cross analyzing it against, your bills. So it really is serving it up in a way that you can have deep, really impactful conversations with the client. It also gives you insight into their spending habits. Like one of the places that I go is internal controls, right? It's a great way to say, okay, when you're having a discussion with leadership about, the findings in these reports, is why. Like, why are you spending so much? And how do we structure the governance within your organization and the policies to make sure this doesn't happen again?
Absolutely. And
You
that's one of
know,
the things I was talking about before around procurement of new apps. We've got
Mhm.
an app
Right.
catalog, so you can actually surface to everyone and you can create a process. If you want to invite clients in or do it internally, you can actually create a process where you've got a catalog that can be shared internally. Here's all of our apps. This is everything that we've got.
Mhm.
If you want access to any of these things, you can request it, and then there's a sign-off process where justify why you need it, and we'll give you access if it's justifiable. If it's not there and you can't find what you need within the app catalog, you can then request an app. So there's
Yeah.
a form that you can then fill out, say, this is what I need, this is how many users I need, this is the cost of it, this is why I need it. And then that again can go through to the relevant person within the organization who can then sign it off. It's about not just giving out the company credit card and letting people go spend money willy-nilly. There's too many apps out there now, and the spend is too high to be able to get away with doing that anymore. And certainly if the objective is to clean things up and reduce spend and become more efficient as a business in the way that you're using technology, more joined up, it's not just about reducing spend, it's about if I've got marketing, sales, and customer success using three separate tools, and we had this using three separate tools when actually we now use HubSpot for everything for managing the ticketing for support. We use HubSpot for the CRM for sales, and we also use HubSpot for the marketing and the
Mhm.
campaigns and everything that goes along with it. All of it's in one place, and now we've got a singular picture. We're far more efficient as a business because we're using one tool instead of three siloed tools that don't
Right.
speak to each other. You don't have the level of insight that we now have.
Right.
you know, I want to make another point. Heather, do
This
you
is,
want to launch the
yeah,
poll
I was
while?
just gonna say, can I
Okay.
launch the poll, please? So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So
Okay,
if
so
you would like
while
to learn more about Appventory, go ahead and let us know, and we'll share your information over with Owen and his team.
And one of the things that I will say while that poll is up is right now there's this huge trend. It doesn't matter, I won't pick say a favorite right now, but there's this huge trend of people moving from ChatGPT over to Claude. This is one example of are you paying attention to your clients on what they're signing up for? So being able to have, a Chrome user add-on to be able to look to see who all is using Claude and ChatGPT, is that a compliance issue? I
Mm,
mean, of course, that's a little bit of a spend issue, but really it's more about what is the company-wide policy and are those individuals following it?
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm one of those. I've just converted to Claude from
yeah.
ChatGPT, and I do not regret it. It's absolutely fantastic. If
It's
anyone hasn't done that
incredible.
already, you
Yeah.
really should very seriously look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Heather and I are in that same boat with you.
Yeah.
We're
We're in the
we're switching
process
over.
of switching
Well, I
over.
will end the poll there, but
Oh, thank
I
you.
yes, yes, yes. So I will say to everyone, check out our YouTube. This video and so many others are on that YouTube channel. This one will be there later this week, so that way you can learn more if you weren't able to join us live. But Heather and I are going to be live next week at Scaling New Heights. I will tell you, we're not going to do our normal scheduled episode. We're just going to
Mm-mm.
join you at some point, and Heather and I are going to do some commentary from the crowd there. Those of you who don't have a chance to go, we know that you get FOMO about conferences, so we'll be sharing some of the things that are happening while we're there at Scaling New Heights. And then we're also going to be doing a showcase with pilot.com. So if you are familiar with Pilot, or if you're not, it is an AI bookkeeping solution and they have a lot of automations that are built into it. So you want to make sure to join that episode. And then again, this is conference season, so I will be live at Bridging the Gap and look forward to joining from there to share what's happening.
And Liz, I just want to make a quick correction. The date that was on that slide was actually incorrect. So
Oh,
the pilot date is actually July 7th, not the 14th.
thank you. Yeah,
Welcome.
that's a good one. You don't want to miss it.
Mm-mm.
Well, Owen, I appreciate you walking us through what Appventory does. I say Appventory because I think of it being an app inventory.
That's where it comes from. That's where it is.
Yeah.
It's technically Appventory, but absolutely your line of thinking is that it's an app, an inventory of your apps, right? So it's app inventory, Appventory, play on words. Call it what you like. It's been called far worse.
Really cool app. I mean, there's really nothing like it out there, and it's very impactful. So well
Yeah, I
done.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work,
Mhm.
a lot of back and forth with a lot of advisors, really gauging what the audience wanted, needed, a lot of iterating, reiterating on the product to get it where it needed to be. And yeah, I think we're landing now in a space that's we're seeing it with the subscriptions, with people signing up and willing to pay more money for it. So it's that's a good signal, really, that you're heading in the right direction, right? So we're really pleased that we're getting some really positive feedback from the users. And yeah, if anyone's got any questions about who we are, what we do, we'll also be at Scaling New Heights
Awesome.
next week. I won't be there myself, but our CEO and CTO will be across there. Or
Excellent.
yeah, feel free to reach out to me directly.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Owen, and stay in touch with us for sure.
Will do. Yeah, we'll pop across. I won't, but the team will pop across and say hello. Maybe have a drink with you at Scaling New Heights.
Wonderful.
Oh, you
Maybe
bet we'll say hi.
maybe a passion martini.
Yeah.
That's right.
All right.
With a sidecar of champagne.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well,
Take care.
we'll save that for Vegas.
Bye.
Thanks,
All
guys.
right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Take care.